If you ever felt like prompting AI video is a frustrating guessing game, you're not alone. You have a clear vision of what you want in your head, but the AI keeps giving you generic, useless clips. And oftentimes it's a waste of time and money to iterate on prompts and continue to get bad results. But the truth is, you don't need to be a prompt engineer to get what you want. You need a system. And by the end of this video, you will have a blueprint that will help take the vision that's in your head and translate it to Sora so that it understands what you want and can deliver more consistent results every single time. Let's go. I'll leave a link in the description so that you can download this whole workflow. I'll also include the Google form questions that we'll go over later so that you can see exactly how this whole system works and is formatted. And you can even use it for yourself. It's mostly plug and play. You'll have to add in your own credentials for these external services, for the Open Router and for Key, as well as Google Sheets. Okay, for this workflow, we're going to use the analogy of a car to help illustrate every single one of these steps in the process. So first we have a new form submission that comes in, which is in many ways the most crucial part and the thing that makes this whole process the easiest. It's a list of questions, so we'll just go look at it now. So in order for Sora to output a video that meets our expectations or meets the criteria that we set, we need to tell it, we need to be very specific about what we want to see out of it. And this is basically like a checklist for Sora. If we were to provide answers to these questions, Sora is going to have pretty much all the context that it needs to output a video that matches our vision as closely as possible. It needs a primary subject, it needs a core action, it needs a setting and environment, it needs a video duration, which in our case with Sora 2, it's just 10 or 15 seconds, and we put that in the API request. But then we can add a key message or a dialogue. We can basically say what we want either an announcer to say or a narrator or whatever, just kind of the overall message of the video. And these things are absolutely necessary. And then these just help take it to another level, which is overall mood and vibe of the video, the visual style, the color palette, the lighting style, the camera shot, the camera movement, the target platform, AI model. This, for this purpose, we're just doing Sora 2, but you can indicate that. Important details. This is massive. Any non-negotiable elements that must appear in the final video. When Sora 2 has all of these elements that are included in this form, it's able to have a clear understanding of what it needs to create. Now, in all reality, I don't go through and answer these by hand. I'll just copy and paste this whole list I'll just copy this list into ChatGPT and tell it that I want it to answer it, and I'll give it basically a general idea of what I want the video to be like, and then I'll go in and I'll make small tweaks. But when you submit this, your results are just going to be far better than if you give it a one sentence generic prompt that doesn't give it very much context. So this is the high octane fuel to carry on with our analogy that really makes this engine fire on all cylinders and really at top speed. We'll talk about this prompt. What I wanted was a cheerful cartoon squirrel wearing a small beret and painter smock holding a paintbrush and palette, and the location is in Central Park. Obviously, when you submit a form, there's a new entry that comes in to this Google Sheet. When that happens, this node will be triggered. So we'll open this new form submission node is listening for new rows to be added to that Google Sheet. So as soon as a form is filled out, this node is going to be checking that Google Sheet every minute. You can set it to every hour, day, week, month, but we have it set at every minute. So when this is in production, every minute, this workflow is going to go and check that Google Sheet and see if there's a new entry to the Google Sheet from the form. You can select the document that you're looking for. Ours is text. This one right here, Sora 2, text to video. And then we only have one sheet that's actually in that document. It's form responses. And then you can change the trigger. You can do row updated, row added, or updated. We're just going to add it. So that's the first trigger. Again, this is the key to the car. It turns it on whenever there's a new row added to that Google Sheet. In the next step, we have the trunk, which is where all of our data is going to be smashed into one object, so we have it in one place. We can keep it organized. It's our store. It basically turns it into our storage. So what we're going to do is walk through this step by step. We'll actually run this. We'll fetch the test event, and you'll see the data come and populate on this side, right? So you see there are 4 rows, and there are 4 rows right here that are returned. If we go here, there are 4 rows as well in this sheet, so it matches it exactly. And so now in NAN, there's always an input and an output. A trigger is a little bit different, but you have an output. And the output from this node will be the input to the next node. So if we look over here at our second one, first I want you to notice that there are 4 items right here. It says 4 items that came out of that form submission. Now we're going to open this one on the left side in the input column. We're going to see the data that was the output column from the trigger. And what this node does is it takes all the items, all the data from here, and puts it into one object. So again, you remember that there were 4 items that came out of the trigger. This node is going to take those items and put it down into one, and then we're going to call it data. So we'll execute this step, and then you'll see that now it's under data. It's all in the same row for visually. It's all in the same row. So it put it all together into one item, which is really important for the next step. And again, we can change this right here. We could call this test, and then we'll run it, and it's going to change the name right here. So now it's test. We need to keep it data for the rest of the workflow, but that's how that is updated. And you can use this to just do specific fields, or you can exclude some fields, but for our purposes, we have it set to all fields. So we'll execute step again just to make sure it's correct. So now our data is put into one item, and you can see that right here when I move the mouse off. It went from 4 items out of the new form submission. It combined them, and then it output one item. All the data is still there, but it repackaged it. So that's our trunk, just stores the data in one place. And then this next piece is where a lot of the power of this workflow or of this system is found, because we're going to hook up our form submission to AI and let it create the prompt, let it optimize the prompt, because it knows AI better than we do. So you can imagine if you were talking to OpenAI or ChatGPT directly, all we're doing is taking the responses from our form and sending it to ChatGPT and say, supercharge this prompt so that Sora 2 has everything it needs to create videos that are high quality, because Sora 2 needs certain things in order to get the output that we're looking for. So we're just gonna outsource this to AI and let it do its thing. So what we do here is we have our user message, use these requirements to build a Sora 2 prompt. So here's our data, and what we did is you can see if I erase this, we can just grab this and put it in here, and that's all that we did. I mean, essentially we had to update it a little bit and turn it into a string so that it was readable in the next step. And then we gave it a system message. You're a Sora 2 prompting expert. You receive a paragraph describing all the features that must be present in a video, converted into a single continuous text prompt. So basically, we tell it, be a Sora 2 prompting pro, take what we give you and turn it into an optimized Sora 2 prompt. And this is kind of the magic sauce in this whole workflow. And then we're using Open Router. I'll show you what that is. We're still connecting to the OpenAI GPT or ChatGPT 4.0 mini model, but we're going through Open Router, which is it's basically a marketplace for AI models. So you can access through Open Router. You can access all these different models. You can scroll down and you see how many models there are over here. You can see the scroll bar, lots and lots and lots of models. So this just makes us a little bit more flexible. If we wanted to switch to a different model, then we wouldn't have to reconfigure this. We could just go into this and say we want to use a different model, which is great, because otherwise you'd have to be managing a bunch of different API keys, and this just makes it very straightforward and very simple. Now we're going to execute this step, and you're going to see that the optimized prompt comes out the other side on the output side. So here is what the AI has gone and done with the responses that we gave in the form and turned it into something that Sora is going to that's going to allow Sora to perform at its very, very best. So that's what the AI output. Next is and that passes that into this engine. So you'll see right here. Now we have access to that output, to that optimized prompt in this on the input side of this of the engine of this workflow, which is Key. And Key is just, it's very similar to Open Router. It is a marketplace for video and image generation models. So we can switch between different models very easily, so it leaves us just a little bit more nimble. And let's go over to Key just to look through it for a second so that this will make a little bit more sense. So the reason that we use Key and we don't just go directly to OpenAI or to Sora to their API is because of the pricing. So you see here Sora 2 is 1.5 cents per second, whereas through OpenAI, at least at the time of this recording, it was 10 cents per second. It's much, much cheaper to go through Key to access the same model. So that's why we use Key, and it gives us some instructions here. If we go over to the API, this shows us the things that we need to go through in order to access the API successfully, and kind of the request body structure. So this tells us what it is looking for, and then gives us some other some other inputs that we can add, and I'll show you those on the NAN side. And then this shows the authentication. This is just how we basically how we use our API key to connect to Key. And so you have to do authorization, bearer, and then your API key. So this is just how you connect to Key. Again, it's a post request. We're going to use this endpoint, which is create task. Then we're going to use generic credential type, and then we're going to do header auth. And the reason that we do header auth is because then we can store the credentials, then we can use it in the future, and we don't have to re-enter our credentials in every single node that we use, because we're going to get access the Key API multiple times. And so we can just make this header auth one time, and then it will be used in the future Key nodes that we use in the future. Then we come down here, and the body content type is going to be JSON. And then you're going to see that this looks very similar. If we go back to Sora, this looks very similar to the request body structure. We'll go to this one. This one's a little bit more full. So you can see we have model, callback, URL, input, and we have our model right here, input. We have the prompt. We have our aspect ratio. We have how long we want the video to be. And so you can see this looks just like this. These are instructions that Key gives us, and we're just following those instructions here. So we're going to inject this prompt. We're going to take this output and put it in the as the value for the prompt key. We're going to define our aspect ratio. We're going to say we want it to be 10 seconds. You have two options. You can be 10 or 15 seconds. And then we're going to remove the watermark. So now Key is going to know exactly what we want it to do. We're going to execute this step. It's going to give us a response that is a success if Sora got everything that it needed. Now, this doesn't mean that the video is done yet. In fact, Sora is working on it right now. We're going to go to logs, and you're going to see that this is currently running. That project that we just sent it is running right now. So when we try and execute this step, and we'll go into detail of what happens in this step, but this is going to force us to execute the previous nodes. And what happens now is this goes into this loop. So this is our cruise control. So we have a wait node right here that's waiting 10 seconds, and after it waits for 10 seconds, it's going to move on to the next step. And what this node is going to do is it's going to check the status of the project that we just sent Key. So right now we see that it is still in the state of generating, but you'll see that this is the endpoint is record info. It's a GET request. So we're simply looking at the status of this project. Is Sora 2 still working on building this video or not? And follows the same credentials, and we just pass it a task ID so it knows exactly which task or project that we're interested in finding the status of. So you'll see that this has gone through a couple of times. This if right here is going to say if the state, which right now is generating, is equal to success, then it's going to output to the true branch. But if it's not, it's going to output to the false branch. So you see that if it's false, it's going to go back and it's going to wait another 10 seconds. Then check. If it's ready, it will pass through. If it's not, it will go back, do another loop, and wait. And once we see this go all the way through, once we see it have a status of success, then it's going to go here to our navigation portion. And our navigation portion just tells us where Sora is storing, or where Key is storing that video that we just created. And so it's just putting it in a string format. It'll be video URL. It's just pulling it out of the response that we get. And we can see that in just a minute. And then right here, this is the garage, because once we get this URL, we are going to go back to the Google Sheet that initially started this whole process, and we're going to take the row that has triggered this whole thing, and we're going to add the URL to the end of the row where this video is stored, so that in this sheet we're going to be able to see all of the videos and where they're stored. So when we click on this, it's going to download to our computer where we can see the video. So this is still running. And so when it's done, we'll see the result. Okay, so now we got a successfully executed notice. So we come here, and this is the URL that we got for the video. This is where it's stored. And then we'll run this, and then it's going to go and grab that row and add that URL to the end. So now we'll come here, we can download it, and we can watch the video. So we'll watch the video in just a second. Okay, here's our final video.
Look at those colors, just like the sunshine. A little orange here and a touch of green there. Perfect. It feels like autumn is smiling back.
So you can see that there are some adjustments that maybe you'd want to make to the painting. You could talk more about what you want the painting to look like, but other than that, this came out pretty darn good and pretty close to what we prompted it to do.